Lindsay here. Today for Sketchbook Sunday, I'm going to show you how I illustrated this hand. I am doing a series of hands for Inktober. I'll show you the first couple that I have done. This one was the first one I did in the Jane Davenport journal. I used alcohol markers and colored pencil and some white paint pen for this. And I'll just go through the first couple that I did so that you can see. This one here was for the day 2 of Inktober. The prompt was mindless, and I thought of mindlessly scrolling on a phone. And this one I started off doing a grayscale wash with ink, but then I wasn't happy with just the black and white essence. So I used some of those, some inky watercolors to glaze over it and give it some color. And then I went over it with some colored pencils to liven it up, warm it up, and smooth it out a bit. And I was really pleased with the way that turned out. And I like that I could go back in with the black ink and get like those super dark shadows. For the third day, the prompt was bait, and so I have this hand holding a little bait fish, and I really liked the way this was coming out. It was very frustrating when I was doing it, but I think all of these illustrations have been that way, and I started off with markers and then did colored pencils, and same technique that you're going to see me work on today here. So I'm going to start off by clipping open my sketchbook, and I'm working on render paper this time, which is a very smooth marker paper that does not blend, so I'm going to have to layer, just like I did in the both the Jane Davenport journal and the Fabriano journal that I was working on. Now I'm sketching with a blue Col-Erase pencil because the prompt for today is freeze, so I thought I wanted to have a very cool, cold look to my hand today. And I found a reference photo of a hand holding an icicle, and to me it almost looked like a magic wand, and then I started to think about like that Disney movie Frozen, and just kind of went from there with my prompt. I find that having a few limitations at the beginning is really helpful. So making myself go by the word and go by the fact that I want to use hands for every illustration really helps me be creative because it takes away so many variables. I know it's hard to see that because on such smooth paper the colored pencil won't lay down that much, but it's actually going to be beneficial when I use the markers because then I'm not going to have to deal with a bunch of lines. Col-Erase colored pencils are made by Prismacolor, and they are erasable, so I can erase any lines that I don't want, which is handy. The markers I'm using are by Art and Fly, and I reviewed them recently. They're an excellent alternative to Copic markers. They're refillable. They have high quality brush nibs that don't fray. They're very flexible. They're just really nice markers, and you can get refills, both replaceable tips, brush tips, and you can get the replaceable inks for them. So if you're looking for some markers, Copics are too pricey, give these a shot. They're about $2 to $3 per marker in sets, and there's not a lot of duplication between sets. If you go to my review, you can read all about all the ins and outs of it and whatnot, but you can kind of, basically what I'm saying is you can buy the little packs and build as your budget allows, which is nice because markers can get pricey and you kind of want a bunch to be able to get all the colors that you need to be able to blend and layer and whatnot. On this paper, since I'm layering, I can layer up many of these colors to get unique shades, which is really nice. I decided I would go in with some brown and get some of the shadows. I'm staying with a fairly realistic color palette here. I can always go in and add more colors later, which I will, but I try to get my values down fairly certain. With this paper, the markers look a lot darker than they end up looking. There's a big shift in color. So you want to make sure that if you're trying this paper that you don't get nervous when you're working on it and then just kind of abandon it or freak out and overcompensate. No, your stuff lightens up so much when it dries, the nature of the paper. I like this paper because it doesn't bleed through to the back, but it did take a little getting used to. I did not like it at first. I'm using some Copic markers because I have some really pale shades in Copics, and I'm using this really pale purple to just give me some nice cool shadows. I wanted the hand to feel very cold, like it was outside. You know, if you're outside in the winter and you don't have your gloves on, your hands kind of turn a little bluey purple because, I don't know, it's like you can see the veins through them. At least it does with me anyway. So I really want that feeling of cold. And I'm using some other skin tone markers that I had because I just got some more of the Art and Fly markers, but I didn't have them at the point when I was recording this, so I was just kind of filling in with some other brands of markers that I had. That's a great thing about alcohol markers. You don't have to stick to one brand. You can get the color you need in whatever brand. So if you're starting off with like a Copic alternative to save some money, you can always go in. If they don't have the color that you need and Copic does, you can always go in and buy it in Copic. So like these are the Arteza Grays. I love that set. So I'm using some of that for like the icicle medical and for graying down some of the skin tone. You know, mix and match, use what you have, grab all those markers, those alcohol markers, put them together and make yourself, you know, a super duper kit. You can use Sharpies and the Bic markers and any of your alcohol markers together. They're all the same type of ink, so they're all going to work really well. I recommend that when you're getting into markers that you buy your really, really pale shades first, because they're going to be the most useful. And those are what you usually don't find if you're getting like a multi-pack of Sharpies or you're getting an assortment to save money of any brand. They always are lacking in those super pastel shades. So those are the ones to buy individually when you see a sale or when you have a coupon, because those are going to be your workhorse markers. And then those will be the ones you buy the refill ink bottle for. So it makes sense to invest in a higher quality marker where you can refill it. That way it's more convenient and you're not, you know, just throwing away empty plastic marker containers, you know, what do you call them? Barrels all the time. So that's what I like. I don't like to waste. I don't like to throw things away. I'd rather have a variety of usable markers than, you know, just replacing them all the time. I decided that I would put a sleeve on my hand, and I was thinking kind of like a wispy organza sleeve, kind of like a princess, a frozen princess would have. And I also thought I would have some magical lines coming off the icicle, so it would look like a magic wand and not just an icicle. Because I didn't know how literal I should be, but I like to have fun with these prompts, and by just kind of drawing some little swirls off of the wand, it just, I don't know, gives it that kind of wandiness instead of just an icicle. And maybe it would look wandy enough anyway. Maybe I'm being too literal, but it's my sketchbook. It's fun. I'm going to do it. Now I'm going in with a little bit more purple. This is a little bit darker than the original one I had. This is actually one of my Blick Studio markers. Love those markers too. There's so many good markers nowadays. And I'm just adding some deeper shadows. I'm going in with this really pale mint. It's an Art and Fly marker. And I'm adding some of the greener undertones in the hand. And I have to admit, my hands look a little zombie-ish before they're all done. When you got all the purple and the green undertones, it looks a little gray and a little grim. But they do liven up as you layer and warm things up. So don't freak out, basically. Ink is transparent. You're going to layer, and you'll get where you're going eventually. I also want to mention that the real-time hour-and-a-half long version of this illustration is up in Critique Club right now. So if you're a Critique Club member, you can find that in the classroom under October bonus lesson number 1. If you're not a Critique Club member and you'd like the full tutorial of this, you can join Critique Club. It's $5 a month, and there are right now, geez, we're in the 10th month, so there is probably about 19 full-length, kind of more advanced mixed media and watercolor tutorials up, and you can upload 2 of your paintings every month for critique if you are feeling brave and you want to. Some people just join for the long tutorials, but it's there to help people that want to grow as artists. I was just using an electric eraser there because I had drawn the pinky finger and fleshy part of the hand correctly, but I second-guessed myself, and then I redrew it with marker, and I didn't like it. I realized that I made a mistake, so then I was going in and trying to erase back down to the paper a little bit, and it worked enough that I could pull the drawing back, and then I went in with a clear blender to lighten it up so that I can go back in and layer on some color. So that's a thing that I really wanted to emphasize with these Inktober pictures that I've been doing, is that they have all had a lot of messes along the way. None of them have been executed perfectly the whole way. Maybe the closest one was yesterday's, which I'll show you at the end of the video, but that was just black and white. I didn't have all these colors in there. So, you know, expect to have a mess when you're learning something new. Just expect it. Now I'm just hand drawing some little snowflake stars here to make it look magical. You could also use rubber stamps for that if you wanted to. And I thought about it, but I thought, I'm just going to stick with my markers and just draw the little stars in there, because I thought I wanted to look kind of like magical stars and also snowflakes. So I just did some lines basically and dots. And now I'm going in with this violet. It's a little bit darker, and redrawing the finger the way I originally had it, because, man, I have a hard time with the pinky fingers. That's like my least favorite finger on the hand, because I always get that one messed up. It's always either too long or too short. It just looks awkward. And I'm coming to terms with that. And hopefully by the end of this month, after drawing 31 hands, I will be really good at all the fingers and I'll be able to draw them all well. I'm hoping anyway. So now I really need to warm things up. So I'm using that kind of yellowy brown to go in and warm things up. And then I'm seeing I've got some shadows that I want to reinforce. So I'm going in with some of this like light grayed blue color and adding in my shadows. You can kind of see the zombie-ness that happens here. I might have to do a zombie hand for Halloween or something. I don't know. But I just kind of, it's a push and a pull, the whole process. I'm adding some dark, and then I'm adding some light, and I'm adding some cool, I'm adding some warm, and it's just this constant like tug of war, this push and pull between these colors as I'm working. But I really enjoy working in color. I didn't have very much time for yesterday's Inktober drawing, and you can see all my Inktober drawings on my Instagram page. If you go to Instagram and just look me up, Lindsay Weirich on Instagram, I'll link it down below too. You can see the pictures without having to join if you're not a member of Instagram, but you can see all of my drawings there. And I did just black and white ink last night because I didn't have very much time, and it was fun. It was easier. I will say that it was a lot easier than using alcohol markers, but I didn't enjoy it quite as much. I don't think I didn't enjoy the results. Maybe I enjoyed drawing it just as much, but I didn't enjoy how it turned out looking at the end. Now, I find that I really like to go over the colored ink with the colored pencil, because colored pencils are kind of waxy and translucent, kind of like our skin is, and it just helps smooth the different colors together a bit. It bridges the colors really well, but it doesn't cover them all up, so you still get that nice variety of color without having it so harsh. So you don't really have like the harsh transitions, especially on this render paper that doesn't blend. The colored pencil is just really nice for smoothing between there. The only thing to worry about though on the render paper, which is a marker paper, it's actually considered a mixed media paper, but I've only really found markers to work excellent on it, is that it's so smooth that you can't lay down a lot of colored pencil. So you've got to be really judicious about where you put it. So if you know you want a really light area, you might want to save that and put that light colored pencil down first, and then you can always darken it later. Like I was finding that these acrylic paint pens worked really nice for just giving me that highlight, and then I just kind of spread it out with my finger or tap it with my finger to soften it. And it's hard to see with how fast it's going here on the time lapse, but just kind of hit that ridge of where I want the highlight, and then just blot it with my finger to get the harshness away. But I felt that really gave it a lot of roundness. And if you notice, like the meaty part of the hand there, I've got the shadow on the edge. Each edge has a little bit of shadow on it, so the highlight's kind of in the center. And then you've got, so it gives it that roundness, that fleshiness. And then I go in and put some of the bright highlight where like the light might be just kind of bouncing off of an edge, or you've got a cast shadow from snow, kind of defining the edges a bit. But you want those shadows on the edges, just like if you were shading a tree trunk, to give you that roundness. And then I put a lot of little wrinkles in there, even though it kind of made it look a little grim at first, but those wrinkles give it that fleshy feeling that skin would have. I don't want it to look like a statue. I want it to look like skin. So, you want to make sure that you're getting those textures, those colors, those undertones. That's why I use so much color when I'm doing skin, because you see a lot of color. Skin is translucent. You're going to see blue. You're going to see red under the skin. You're going to see orange. You might see some green. You want to get those colors in there so it feels lifelike. So I thought things were getting a little too blue, so I'm going in with this pink color. I think it might be carnation pink there, just a really kind of it's pretty light paint color, and I'm just going in there to bring some life back into the fingers. Pink's also a cool color. As long as you stay away from like a coral, the pink undertones will be cool, so you can still keep that cool feeling. I did go into some cream. I usually use cream on most flesh because it does give you a nice warm highlight, where I find the white colored pencil to be a little on the cool side. And then I decided I did want to do some outlining with these fine liners. These are the Art and Fly black fine line pens, very similar and comparable to the Microns. They're cheaper, which is nice, but quality wise they're the same. You do want to be careful though if you're trying to fine line and you're going over colored pencil, because you can clog the nib, especially when you have one of those really skinny fine liners like a 005. So you might want to like go to like a number 3 or something, 03, if you're going to go over colored pencil. So, and then scribble off the fine liner on a scrap paper before you put it away, because you don't want to have that, you don't want to clog it up with anything, basically. And then I've got a little bit of acrylic paint there and stuff. I just want to make sure that I don't clog up and ruin those fine liners. If it does happen that you do get a fine liner clogged up and you can't get it to write again, and you know you've got plenty of ink, what you can do is take some rubbing alcohol and put it on like a tissue, and then write over the tissue, and then that should dissolve either acrylic or colored pencil that's gotten clogged on the nib. So there's a little tip for you. I'm going in with some more highlight highlighting. This time I'm using a bullet white pen. It's less, it puts down a wider bit of ink, but it's not quite so sharp. So it's just a little easier to blend, and I'm just putting these kind of finishing touches in. I've got a terracotta pencil here, which is a really nice reddish brown. I find it works really well with indigo, and I'd done some indigo into the shadows already. So when I layer those colors, I just get a really lively dark. And I love the way that looks for a lot of things, but especially on skin, because you really have to, if you really look, you're going to get some really dark shadows when you have a hand closed up like that. And I really want to put those in to make it look really realistic and kind of get the, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to push myself and get better as an artist and improve my hand drawing. So I'm really pushing these illustrations to the best of my ability anyway. So hopefully you find it useful. And like I mentioned, if you do enjoy this and you'd like to see the real-time version of this, check out Critique Club. You can join, cancel anytime. It's a monthly membership, and you can upload your own work for critique if you're trying to grow as an artist yourself, or if you just want the longer tutorials, then you can take advantage of those as well. And you know, it's just something for everybody there that wants to grow as an artist, whether you want to share your work or you want to just enjoy the longer tutorials. And there you have it. I'm really happy with the way that came out. It was a lot of fun. Remember, you can find the real-time version at Critique Club, link down below. This was yesterday's prompt build, and then I'll just leave you with the other Inktober illustrations I've done so far this month. Each Sunday on Sketchbook Sunday this month, I will share a time-lapse of one of the week's versions of hands, so hopefully you enjoy that. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.